our new compatriots, I warmly congratulate you and wish you a fulfilling and prosperous journey as citizens of Ghana. And on behalf of the government and the people of Ghana, I say once again, welcome to your new responsibility as citizens of the Republic of Ghana. May God continue to bless all of us, and may God continue to bless our homeland, Ghana. Thank you so much.
Very, very deep words indeed, and food for reflection. Welcome to your new responsibility as citizens of the Republic of Ghana.
To our new compatriots.
All right. Congratulations to those who have received citizenship today in Ghana. And welcome to This Week in Ghana, your bi-weekly live stream where we talk about all things Ghana related. We touch on real estate investment, business, moving to Ghana, and so many more things, including citizenship in the country of Ghana. Before we get into today's stories, we'd like to start with some introductions. So I will turn it over to my co-host to do her introduction before I do mine.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ivy Prosper, and I am the founder of my company, Prosper Creative Group. I do work as a producer, as a speaker, as a YouTube creator, African cultural strategist, consultant, and I'm excited for us to have an engaging conversation today that hopefully enlightens all of you to learn more about Ghana and Africa and beyond.
Absolutely. And I'm Joe Hatagwa, the CEO of Authentic African Media. We help people visit, move, and invest in Africa. We bridge the gap between those living on the continent and those living in the diaspora, people with business, products, and services on the continent, with those who are looking for those services, products, and businesses living in the diaspora, and vice versa. And we also like to bring you the latest and greatest from the continent so you're aware of where you're planning to visit, move, or invest in. So, as you saw, today we are talking about Ghana granting citizenship to a number of folks from the diaspora. Before we get into that, though, we have decided that we're going to start a new segment for those who are thinking about moving to Ghana, visiting Ghana, investing in Ghana. It's always good to know what the currency conversion is in most of our viewers are from the US. So we do want to start with a bit of a currency conversion discussion. So you guys know the rate to the dollar for now, and then, maybe we'll do other currencies later in the future. So right now it's pretty close to 11 Ghana cedis to every $1. Just to give context over time, you guys see this graph over 1 month, but if you were to go back 4 years, it would be a drastic fluctuation. I think I've mentioned this previously. When I first got to Ghana, it was $6 to every 1 CD. By the time I left Ghana, almost 3 years later, it was 15 CDs to every $1. And now we're right around 11 CDs to every $1. So we will continue to monitor and keep you guys posted. I don't know if you have any thoughts on the dollar rate today, but just wanted to share that with the folks who are watching.
Well, it's been like that for the last little while. It's been fluctuating between 10 and 11 for the last few months. So it's been pretty stable at that amount the last few months.
Absolutely. All right. And so so to get into today's conversation, right, it's an important one, something that we've talked about on many occasions throughout the years. And as you all may or may not know who are watching, today marked the first time in President Mahama's second term as president that he has done a citizenship ceremony. Obviously, it's a historic day for the diaspora because it's been a long time coming. Many of you guys might know that, there was a halt put on the applications on, I think, right around February 1st, and then it was reopened, and then the application submission timeline was between February 2nd and 6th, 2026. The requirements that were needed to be met was 2 years residency, 25,000 Ghana cedis, which is roughly about 2,400 USD. Some vetting that is done. You needed to turn in a background check, and also one of the things that was previously required but that was removed was proof of Ghanaian descent. But one of the other things that was still required was close ties to Ghana. You would have to be able to share your close ties to Ghana. And I think there's always been that question about what that means. And I think you always had you had something to say the last time, I think, about this particular topic. It was intentionally vague, I think, if I remember you mentioning that, Ivy. So do you have any thoughts on that close ties to Ghana? That always comes up as a question as to what that means for people who are looking to apply for citizenship to Ghana.
Well, it just really means proving that you have some kind of tie to the country, because there are some people who have been investing, they've been doing things over the years that shows that they've created a strong tie to the country, whether it's through a business that they've started, whether it's through investing in someone, whether it's maybe they've built a school that is educating students, they've provided some services, maybe they have a nonprofit that's doing something that's investing in the community. That's something that can show that you have a strong tie to the nation. So there are some people who were able to get in, even if they didn't have the full 2 years of residency, for example, but they've spent a lot investing in the country, doing certain things, then some of those people were able to still get citizenship despite not having the full 2-year residency. So that's an example of having a strong tie to Ghana.
Nice. Oh, and I'd be mistaken not to say happy birthday to Ivy. It's Ivy's birthday, everybody.
Thank you. I'm here spending my birthday, doing a live stream with you all here on YouTube. I'm actually not in Ghana at the moment. Some of you can see that I'm wearing this turtleneck sweater, so I'm hot. I know I would be hot if I was in Ghana wearing something like this. I am in Canada briefly. I am spending some time here, and I'll be back in Ghana soon. But I am spending my birthday here, and I get to see my mother I haven't seen in a long time, and my siblings. So yes, I am spending my birthday in Canada for the first time since 2016.
Wow. Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. Happy birthday. I think it was strange for me to celebrate my birthday in America for the first time in about 8 years too. Years is much longer. It was 10 years. Wow.
Yeah.
It's kind of a shock. But welcome to this side of the world. We're in the same time zone for the first time in a while since I know. So, but yes, so a couple people said, Cook Plate Repeat says, I was waiting for you guys' coverage to come on this evening. My wife and I, Venus, were at the ceremony and we got our citizenship.
Congratulations. Congratulations. My camera guys were there because I'm not in Ghana at the moment. I had 2 camera guys there covering the event. So I will have some footage directly on my channel that after they edit, I'll get to post it.
Absolutely.
Congratulations. Congratulations, Venus.
Congratulations. And then there are a bunch of folks mentioning this, just congratulating everyone. Obviously, people are wishing you happy birthday, Ivy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, yes, the birthdays.
You can gift me. You can give me a gift by supporting me through my through my PayPal or my Zelle.
There you go. That's one thing that can be done. That is certainly proof that you have very, very, very strong ties to Ghana. Yes, also direct lineage to Ghana as well, right? For Ivy. So yes, of course. Some folks will be visiting for the first time. Interesting. Okay, cool. So let's kind of get into today's ceremony. So again, this was the first cohort of citizenship. Well, before we get to that, because somebody asked a very important question. What is the Zelle? Do you use Zelle?
Yeah, my Zelle is my email is info@ivyprosper.com. So let me put that info@ivyprosper.com. I'm typing it in right now for my Zelle. if you want to give me a birthday gift. I just in the chat. Is it in the live chat? I think I put it in the live chat.
It should be there shortly. If not, I'll add it. It may have only gone to yours. So info@iv.
Oh, you know what? I accidentally put it in our studio chat. I didn't put it in the live chat.
I can copy and paste it.
Okay. Let me try to go to let me try to go to the live. Let me go to the comments. I think I was on the wrong screen. There we go. Let me go on the right screen.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think you guys might be shocked at how at Ivy's age, but that'll be a conversation for another time. I was. I went to your birthday party, what, 4 years ago now?
3 years ago.
3 years ago. I went to your birthday party 3 years ago, and I was shocked. Okay, so, back to the topic at hand. As mentioned, there was a lot of talk about this citizenship ceremony, and one of the deterrents for some was the cost. I think Ivy had a conversation with someone recently that the cost was a deterrent. And it was partially the reason why I wasn't able to go, just because I would have had to fly and pay the fee. And if I was already in country, it might have been different for a trip that I was already doing, but it would have been a kind of a last minute flight. So I was unable to do so. But yes, so I was going to get to, Mahama was the first person from my recollection and from our conversation previously to do a larger cohort of people to get citizenship under his first administration those years ago. And then, of course, it was ramped up. There was a lot of public relations around the year of return, beyond the return, and people getting citizenship in those years. Many people throughout those years. I don't know how many total. I think it was more than 800 folks, right, over that two terms under the previous administration.
Yeah. So it was not to interrupt you. I just want to clarify. It was the first batch was about 100 under President Nana Akufo-Addo. It was 126 was the first group. And then there was just about 200 in the second group, and then 524 on the third group, and then about 200 on the fourth group.
Right. So so that's closer to 1,000. Definitely over 800, right around 1,000 folks. So 900 and change. It sounds like I don't do math in public, but I think we're in that range. So quite a number of people got citizenship in those two terms under Akufo-Addo. So I'll be interested to see what those numbers look like for today's cohort. Those numbers haven't been officially released as of yet. Some people are reporting some numbers, but I'd love to see what numbers the government of Ghana puts out. So today's ceremony was live streamed on Facebook, and I can share the link here in the chat. I mean, obviously don't go watch it now. You can watch it after the live stream. But you know what? I'll put it in the description afterwards. You guys can go watch it after in the description. It'll be in the YouTube descriptions afterwards if you guys want to go watch the live stream. And there were a couple of different speakers. I was in and out of watching it. Ivy watched some moments from it as well. And I saw a couple of different things, right? There was some conversations about the responsibility of becoming a citizen, right? There was some conversations about the shared history and talk about the slave castles in Elmina and Cape Coast. There was some conversations about the idea of the slave trade itself and it being officially recognized as the worst crime against humanity in history, and a number of other conversations around the diaspora being the 17th region. Right, Ghana has 16 regions.
Yeah, Ghana has 16 regions, and they've said that the 17th is the diaspora. Yeah. So
the diaspora being the 17th region, and so we're gonna get into some clips from some of the speeches from today, give our thoughts on it, and and then we'll go from there. So, you guys heard the first speech, just welcoming people and talking about the responsibility of citizenship. This next one is from the man himself, KOD. The next two will actually be from KOD, and he is the person running the Office of Diaspora Affairs His official title is Director of Diaspora Affairs, Office of the President. And it's Kofi Darko. How do you pronounce
it? Darko.
Oh, yeah, Otre Darko. I always have a hard time with those Ghanaian names. I'm working on it, folks. Okay, so he goes by KOD affectionately. So we'll play this video from him and then have some more commentary right after.
Is more than a legal designation. It is an embrace. It is a recognition that identity can stretch across borders, yet remain anchored in heritage. For many of you, the path that led here was guided by ancestry, by cultural memory, by a quiet but persistent sense that somewhere on this continent, that was where it all began. Today, that history comes full circle. Ghana is not welcoming strangers. Ghana is receiving family.
All right. And so really quickly before I play the next remarks from him, and then we'll have some commentary on the other side, some people did some counting as they watched the live stream. And so it's being mentioned that it was about 170 people, at least according to Kwame, who was counting the number of folks who went up to receive their citizenship. I do want to get to some other remarks from KOD and then give some commentary on the other side. I think the two videos together will really give some good insight. So let me play this next piece of commentary and then we'll come back with our thoughts.
Say that the future of this continent cannot be the same and will not succeed without the diaspora. As citizens, you are going to become partners in the continued shaping of this country, its ideas, its communities, and of course, the very aspirations of Ghana. Your perspectives, experiences, and talents enrich the national fabric. The Ghana you join today is dynamic, evolving, and deeply conscious of the importance of reconnecting with its global family. The Diaspora Affairs Office of the Presidency exists precisely for this purpose, to build enduring bridges between Ghana and her sons and daughters from across the world. And your presence here today strengthens that bridge, and our relationship is going to even get better after today. I can promise you that.
All right. So, Ivy, any thoughts on the discussion of the shared heritage in this first clip, and then in the secondary clip, just the discussion about how the diaspora is going to be required to help really get Africa back to its rightful place on the world stage, and how it's a collective effort?
I mean, it's definitely a collective effort because people coming from the diaspora have a set of skills that maybe people on the continent may not have had access to certain things. So it's a natural collaborative type of effort. Mm-hmm. And I think that people who have made the decision they wanted to become citizens already feel a sense of responsibility when they come here, because most of them come and they have a dream, they have things that they want to do, things they want to invest in. So I think it's already a natural inclination. It's not something that you have to actually tell people to do, because in order to be here on the continent, there are certain things that are necessary. You have to have a certain drive, because things don't happen in the same systematic way that they do in North America or in Europe. So I think that just the natural way of doing things, people will contribute. They will have an effect.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. And, you know, I think, as you mentioned, it's like a natural inclination to do so, right? Many of the folks who do get citizenship, you know, are looking to do things that are going to help, you know, progress things. I mean, one, for some people, it's because they want the environment that they're going to be living in to meet to be comfortable, right? And then two, because, you know, many people who are looking to come back to the continent are about the idea of Pan-Africanism and about our collective growth and collective economics, right? These are conversations I've had all the time when I spoke to not only diasporans, but other Africans living in Ghana. I always found that to be interesting, to find that there were other Africans living in Ghana who had the same mindset as the diasporans that were living in Ghana. I have a good friend who's Nigerian, another friend who's from Zimbabwe, another one that was from Cote d'Ivoire. And those were the kinds of conversations we would have. We would talk about, how do we all take advantage of the what's in front of us, and not only have those who are not of African descent be the ones who are running the major businesses, who are employing our people, all of those kinds of things. And so I do think that it's absolutely a collective effort, and I think most people are already thinking about that as well. Some people are looking for a way to escape. Obviously some people are just sick and tired of being in the Western world. And
Sure.
so that is happening as well. But in general, depending on, their means of income, just by the nature of them being in country, there's at the very least the opportunity to hire people for different things. I didn't realize how many times I was going to have to hire different people for different things that never even crossed my mind. Hiring a plumber,
Yeah.
hiring an electrician when I was living in Ghana because I didn't have hot water in my apartment. So hiring a plumber to install hot water, going to Palace Mall and buying the hot water heaters from from people who who are employed Ghanaians working for a company in Ghana, and being a part of the economy. So these were all things that you might not think about very specifically when you're deciding to make the move, but these are all areas of the economy that you impact just by being there. And even one other thing that I did is, a friend of mine who came with me was like, look, if you're going to be shooting content, you should also give back, right? You shouldn't just be taking. So the very first New Year's Day that I was in Ghana, we passed out 150 meals in collaboration with it's a video on YouTube, very early on in my YouTube career. We met with Shirley Ann's in Shadow. Shout out to Shirley Ann's restaurant. And that was my favorite restaurant when I was living in Shadow. And they gave us 150 meals for free to give out. So we went to Black Star Square. We were at that Osu roundabout and a few other places where we ended up passing out 150 meals. And staff from Shirley Ann's came with us to help pass out the meals.
Really good. I didn't know that you did that.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was jollof rice and chicken. The kids were excited. There were a lot of children, and that was the reason for that. So anyway, things like that, which I'd never done before. I'd never done anything like that before. Never been inspired to do anything like that before, but that inspiration came to me when I got to the country. So all of those kinds of things can happen. And look, that's just one effort, one time. But I've done other things like the company I work for, Jumia, did a CSR event where we went to an orphanage and we gave them provisions, right? All kinds of different things. And so I took part in that as well. It's a connection you feel to the people, and you just kind of feel like it's something you should be doing. So I'm grateful for the fact that Jumia wanted to do that, and then also a friend, a good friend of mine who was in country was just like, we should do this, and I jumped on board. So anyway, I definitely think that you'll see that there's going to be many folks that are impacting the country positively. One of the things that does come up, and one of the things that we all need to be conscious of, though, is the idea of gentrification, right? That is a conversation that does come up often. And, what you're finding is that because of the income and the assets, or the disposable income, I should say, of some of those who come, the price of rent or land will be done in dollars and at higher prices in some cases, which does price out locals many times. And so that's one of the things that I think is a challenge. Like, you're going to have the good, and you're going to have some things that may be a negative byproduct of a large influx of people. Very much like the neighborhood in Brooklyn that I live in today, right? It looks very different than when I signed my first lease in this apartment in 2004. It's a completely different demographic here. And so there are going to be some challenges that come along with that. But as long as the folks that are coming there are coming to improve and help us grow together, I do see a potential net benefit for those who are coming to the continent. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but I just wanted to add that piece as well.
I think that there's always, or I should say always, there's often this misconception that it is the African diaspora are solely responsible for increases in pricing in Ghana. But the reality is the African diaspora are not the only people who are coming and investing in Ghana. We have a lot of people who are coming from Europe, people are coming from China, people are coming from Korea, people are coming from Lebanon, people are coming from other places. It's not just people from the African diaspora who are coming. People are coming from Turkey. There's Turkish companies here as well who are doing work in Ghana. So there is a large number of people coming from a diverse number of countries who are seeing the opportunity in Ghana to invest in real estate, to invest in, oil, tech, whatever types of industries that they're seeing as opportunity. So it's not only the African diaspora who can be pinpointed as the reason for things being more expensive, but there's a lot of people who are seeing Africa overall as an opportunity. So people are coming in, and maybe it could be somebody could be from Turkey, and all of their staff that they've hired are Ghanaians. So people might think it's a Ghanaian company, but it's actually a company owned by, a Turkish business person. So we can't solely say that it's the African diaspora that's the result of things going up in price in Ghana.
That's exactly right. And I'm glad you made that point, because I think many people do attribute it solely to diasporans. And so it's important that you make that point, because yes, very much so. Are there people from all of those backgrounds, other nationalities in country that are coming to country? And Ghana is a very, I would say it's one of the destinations that are looked at as is a great place to do business because of all the things that we all love Ghana for, right? And so other people feel the same way and want to come there to not just be there, but to also do business there. And so
despite the fact that, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, go ahead. That was pretty much it. Yeah.
I was going to say, despite the fact that when people come, you hear a lot of complaints and challenges that people face. Despite that, Ghana is actually one of the easier countries for port of entry when it comes to doing business, which is why you see a lot of people coming here to Ghana to do business, because there's not as much red tape as with some other African countries may be. So even though it has its challenges, it's still one of the easier countries to navigate when it comes to starting a business.
Absolutely. Yes. And it's just a great environment to be in. I always say Ghana is my second home, even though I have, another country that's my country of origin. But it's a little bit smoother of a transition for those moving to the continent. So you know what I mean. So there is a question that our folks are asking: did I get my citizenship? Unfortunately, I did not. I am in the United States currently. So I will hope to be on an upcoming cohort. So stay tuned for that when that occurs. But you will know for sure. We will open up the live stream with that. the day I get my citizenship, we will be very, very clear that I have gotten it. Okay, so other remarks were made throughout the time there today. And so I do want to get to a couple more videos and give some more of our thoughts. And so we have some commentary, one from Rabbi, and then the other from the Vice President. So I will start with the Rabbi, and then we will give some commentary on the other side.
The one who bears the black star in her flag, the one who has held up the black star, the one who has been the champion of Pan-Africanism, tonight is performing another great feat in history, has performed another great act in history. And all of those who have been recipients of that, let us raise our voices on high as the heavens, to give thanks once again for what has been performed here today, to give thanks and honor of appreciation to what has been done here today, and to pledge also, along with our Pledge of Allegiance, to pledge that we will continue to fight, continue to struggle until Africa is free, until Africa is united, and that all of her sons and daughters are welcome home to Mother Africa.
So one of the things that I wanted to ask your thoughts on was the idea of Ghana leading the way in these citizenship ceremonies, right? There are other countries that do it, right? Sierra Leone has its own citizenship process, and that's going through its own turmoil today. But Ghana really, just in terms of the numbers, it's unprecedented, right? So any thoughts, and especially since you kind of seen this evolve since it first began, really, in terms of these large numbers, because you were there for this whole thing. What are your thoughts on Ghana leading the way here, and what that means for Ghana, and maybe because of Ghana's roots might make it so that it was a country that's ripe for this kind of large kinds of citizenship programs?
Well, I mean, I've said this many times before, that Ghana is a country that has always had this Pan-Africanist spirit to it since the country's independence. So right from the beginning, President Kwame Nkrumah, initially Prime Minister Kwame Nkrumah, and then eventually President, he invited people like Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King arrived in Ghana, I think it was March the 4th. He was there through the first Independence Day celebrations on March the 6th, 1957. And from then on, you know, Kwame Nkrumah continued to invite people from the diaspora. He really was a bridge because he went to school in the US, and I think it was Lincoln University, I believe, and he was in a fraternity. And with that, with being there, he saw the strong connection with people from the diaspora, with Black people in America, and seeing the struggle of Black people in America. And he really felt that getting them to come to Africa would be a solution, having Black people come together as a continent and as a people in the diaspora. So he's already had that vision and had been inviting people like W.E.B. Du Bois, who came and stayed and ended up dying in Ghana, buried in Ghana. George Padmore, who also was a Pan-Africanist and came to Ghana as well. He's also buried in Ghana. And you just saw that throughout time, through history, people coming like Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X, Maya Angelou, like throughout the years, people were coming. And then Ghana launching the Panafest in 1992, which was a Pan-African festival, a Pan-African arts and theater festival, inviting the diaspora to come. That was a huge event. In the beginning, Stevie Wonder came to that first event in 1992. And so it's just been a history of Ghana always having people coming. And so they had their Joseph Project in 2007, which was also inviting the diaspora. And then 2019, when the Year of Return happened, it was just absolute perfect timing, because now we were on the cusp of the social media becoming a huge way of people communicating and sharing information. And so when you had people coming who were public figures and showing, you know, their experiences, and then having the Year of Return campaign intentionally marketing, using social media platforms, using PR, then it just all came together, and it was just like perfect timing. And I will say thanks to the millennials who responded the most to digital media, and then it just exploded. And so part of the explosion, online conversations talking about the right of citizenship, the right of coming back and claiming your heritage. And before that, precursor to that, the year 2000 is when Ghana implemented the law called Right of Abode, which basically saying anybody of African descent has the right to live in Ghana. And that has been on the books in Ghanaian law since the year 2000, long before the Year of Return. So the country already had this foundation. So everything just came together and snowballed. So it's just natural that this is the fruits of decades of this happening.
Absolutely. And as someone who has roots in another country, I do see the difference for sure in terms of that connection to the diaspora, and the intentional connection for sure. And I was not as aware of it until I actually moved. You know, I went to Ghana for the year of return.
Yeah.
And I had the time of my life, 4 days, only 4 days. And I moved 12 months later, as
So
I
wild.
said to you in the interview we did back
Yeah.
September of last year.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, it was obviously an amazing experience, and you know, obviously I'm working my way back to living in Ghana as we speak. But yeah, it was definitely a learning lesson while being there. You know, going to the Kwame Nkrumah Museum when I first got there, and learning about the fact that he went to an HBCU, he pledged to historically Black fraternity. You know, all of that I was unaware of, and that connection, and it just made sense. That particular experience in you know, in the South, well, in the United States during you know, Jim Crow era US, and then you know, obviously having gone back to Ghana, becoming the first prime minister and then first president, you know, obviously, you know, shaped the trajectory of its country after its separation from the United Kingdom. So yeah, I mean, I think it really does show in programs like this, and as you mentioned, there's like this historical context all the way through, from you know, Martin Luther King, as you mentioned, to Nina Simone and W.E.B. Du Bois, and all the folks that you mentioned that spent some time there during the early years and then throughout the rest of time, right? You see it now with different people who are coming every single year. And so, you know, the expectation is that each year the number of visitors to Ghana will grow. And that means that there's lots of opportunity for those of you who are thinking about business on the continent. There are many people who you understand their spending habits, their sensibilities, those kinds of things. So there are services and products that you can maybe provide to those people when you're thinking about moving to the continent. You know, so these are all opportunities, I think, for all of us really to be able to have collective economics and also do good and do well while being on the continent. So there is one last clip. Apologies. One last clip I do want to share from the events today, and it is from the vice president. So we're going to hear from her, and then have some commentary on the other side.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the history of the transatlantic slave trade remains one of the darkest chapters in human civilization. Ghana has thus taken a clear stance that the transatlantic slave trade must be officially acknowledged by the international community as one of the gravest crimes against humanity. President Mahama's government is leading efforts at the United Nations to secure that recognition, not as a symbolic act, but as a commitment to truth, a commitment to remembrance, justice, and restoration of the peoples of African descent everywhere.
Well put. Your thoughts on the statements there by the vice president?
My thoughts. I thought you were going to share your thoughts first.
Okay, I can share my thoughts. So so what I'll say is, you know, we've spoken about this before. One of the things that is happening at the already recognized by the African Union, now the plan is to take it to the United Nations, is to recognize the transatlantic slave trade, or others have called trafficking, as the gravest, or one of the gravest crimes against humanity. You know, I think that goes a long way to, once you call it that, put it on paper, you can then begin to start talking about how do you reparative justice, reparations, for example. But I think you have to have that first in order to kind of have the supplementary actions that would happen afterwards. So I'm interested to see how the United Nations proceeds with this. I know they move slowly on purpose, and so we'll see. You know, as Mahama, you know, navigates those waters of the UN, considering all the other things that they're dealing with currently. I'd be interested to see, you know, the designation, if and when it happens, and then what comes from that. But also one of the pieces, as I mentioned, is looking for potentially reparations. And so figuring out what that looks like and who gets it and all of those things, I think, are going to be the details that have to be worked out. But the acknowledgement, at the very least, needs to happen. And so I'm looking forward to seeing that come to fruition, and then what comes from that. Your thoughts?
Well
on
said.
what she said?
Well said. I do think it's a conversation that has a lot of people who question African countries, and this is you know, some controversial stuff, but there's people who question African countries when it comes to topics about reparations, because I know that reparations has come into the conversation as well. I agree with the concept of getting it recognized as one of the greatest, or the greatest crime against humanity, is how he had framed it when he spoke. I do think that the question about reparations is the challenge, because there are people in the diaspora, you know, the African Americans, who their ancestors were the people who ended up on that end of the world and ended up slaving away, building that country. And rightfully, the request about reparations, because you hear about other countries who people have been given reparations, but the Black people in, you know, in America, or in you know, even in Brazil, I mean, there's Black people there who helped that nation as well. And you don't hear about actual reparations for the people when they were taken there and they were the foundation of building these nations. So I think that the challenge is, if you want to talk about reparations for Africa, because I know that that conversation has been put on the table, when it comes to Africa, the colonization that's happened here is also a very serious issue, because there are things that were done here while things were done over there. The things done here were different than how it was handled on that end. And there are effects, you know, huge effects on both sides. And I think there's different ways to approach it. I'm not somebody to say I'm an expert to say how to approach handling the situation with Africans. I do think things like, you know, removing the control that you see, like how France has had control over a lot of the French African countries, like finding ways to break that, to break free of that, and to be able to have their countries still have some kind of foundation to continue to operate on their own. I think there's ways that those things can be explored, but it's a very complex conversation. Very complex, but I do think that it is a step in the right direction to even start having these conversations. But we'll see what happens, because you're right, the UN moves very slowly. At the end of the day, it's trying to appease all countries, and we'll see what happens. Yeah.
Absolutely. And just to the point that you made about the CFA franc, right? A friend of mine just got to Mali and told me that the CFA franc in Mali to dollar rate is like 55,000 to 1. You know, in Ghana, we just talked about how it's about 11 to 1.
Yeah.
In Sierra Leone, we always complain about how, you know, we had some remuneration, but it is 22,000. So sorry, it's 24 to 1, right? So just, you know, just looking at 55,000 to 1 is pretty aggressive. Now, I mean, that may have been an exaggeration of a number, but at the end of the day, it's very, 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 very high. And I know that Mali has been working on, you know, they've been under sanctions by the US government and working to get out of that and build out their economy and to move themselves off of the franc. So, but all of those things, I think, it shows that the colonialism that was supposed to be, what was supposed to be independence, that was supposed to have ended between 50 and 70 years ago, depending on which country, has not really ended, right? It's a conversation that is an ongoing one. And even if they haven't necessarily have the slave trade as it was before, they still have their their hands on the necks of the people of the continent.
Financially,
Financially, for sure. So, on that note, I think that the last thing I think we want to mention, at least in terms of the citizenship, is there was a question here for about the fact that is Ghana still accepting citizenship applications from Black Americans? So the answer is yes, right? They did mention this even when they opened it back up, that they understood that not everybody was going to be able to get in from that window, so that the applications, you can continue to apply. I guess you would call it rolling applications. And so applications are still being accepted. Any additional thoughts on that piece? To that question?
Applications are still being accepted. That's it. They're still being accepted, but you do need to come to the country. You can't just be away. So if you're here, then I always suggest that people get involved in diaspora organizations, because a lot of this information is shared through diaspora organizations. Now, when I say that, what I mean is people who are members of the African American Association. Since you're asking about Black Americans, then let's say you join the African American Association, and the president of the African American Association gets information directly from the Diaspora Affairs Office when they're opening up the next citizenship group. And then the president sends a message to everybody who's a member in the African American Association to say, hey, there's a citizenship coming up soon. This is what's required, who's interested, and then they give the name. So if you're not in that group, you would hope that you get the information, but it's easier to get it if you are a member of these organizations. So if you're Caribbean, you join the Ghana Caribbean Association. So it's an example. There's a diaspora coalition. So you join these diaspora groups when you're here, and then you get the information when it comes up. And then make sure you're doing the things that can lead you to potentially being able to get it. For example, we talked earlier about strong ties to Ghana. Are you doing stuff in the country? Are you giving back? Have you built a school? Have you started a business? Have you partnered with a Ghanaian? Like, what are you doing in the country that can help to reinforce your application? At the same time, there are some people that it surprises me when I find out that they got citizenship, because I'm like, the person is not living here. The person, what have they done here? And then you find out they got citizenship. Now I'm saying that as a segue that Ronnie DeVoe from Belle Biv DeVoe from New Edition got citizenship today. So I don't know if he's been doing anything investing in the country, because this is my first time seeing him in Ghana. He may have come before and I didn't know, but he arrived in Ghana recently with his family and he got the citizenship today. I was like, oh, he got citizenship. So that's another example of somehow, some way, some people end up getting it, even if they're not here all the time. So you just never know.
Yes. I mean, I think every country, not every country, but many countries use citizenship as a public relations tool.
It's true.
There were some other folks in the previous years that people took issue with. I won't call out any names from the previous years. But like, just think Love and Hip Hop and other places. People who were on different TV shows who people spotted in those citizenship ceremonies. And I watched the video, and definitely he was called out as someone who was there prominently as a celebrity in country. There was definitely a good amount of camera time on him. And so, yeah, I mean, you're right. I think certain people will obviously go to the front of the line, right? And those kinds of things are going to be done based on, like I just said, public relations and its potential impact for long-term success of a program like this, and also tourism, right? Because that's one goal of these kinds of things, is to increase tourism, because that uplifts the entire country generally. Almost everybody benefits from tourism.
And it's like that in a lot of countries, because there's a lot of countries that do citizenship even by investment, So I know that your current president made statements to make it seem like he introduced this system of that he called the gold visa or something. He's making it seem like he introduced that system, but the U.S. has always had that system. Because I remember when I was pursuing a career in media and hoping that I would go to the U.S. A long time ago, I had consulted with an immigration lawyer that specialized in Canada, U.S. immigration. And, there are ways when you are a person in entertainment, in media and sports and all that. And so we were exploring those options when it comes to media. But she said to me, by the way, if you have $1 million, you can actually just pay and get a green card. And I was like, what? I'm like, I don't have $1 million. But I was like, what? And she said, yeah. She said, a lot of high level people, that's how they get in the country and they get green cards because it's seen as an investment. They'll pay $1 million, $2 million, and then they're able to get it. And she's like, that's how some of these, big business tycoons are able to come from other countries and be able to just, start doing whatever they're doing. So a lot of countries have that. So high profile people, wealthy people, often get access and often get put, like you said, to the front of the line before others do. It's the nature of the way that the world is, unfortunately for some who genuinely try to do things, the right way or the structured way, but it is what it is.
Yeah, good point. And just to add to that point on citizenship by investment, as you mentioned, the U.S. has like this green card by investment program, sort of that gold program. The UK has had a program. I mentioned this previously under Tony Blair. Tony Blair was the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom throughout some portion of the 90s. So a lot of African leaders and others got citizenship in the UK during that time. And there are a couple of countries on the continent and in the diaspora. I got a video about this coming out soon. St. Kitts has from the Caribbean.
Yes.
St. Kitts has a program. There's a few countries. I don't want to try to name them all. I think Grenada does too as well.
I think Seychelles has one.
Seychelles, I think, does too. I know for sure Botswana is about to launch a citizenship by investment program. Egypt has a citizenship by investment program. Sierra Leone, 140,000 if you're non-African, 100,000 if you're African. And Sao Tome and Principe are all countries in Africa that offer a citizenship by investment program right now. So, and let me tell you, the people who are getting citizenship by investment are not of African descent, to be very clear. Many of them are from other nationalities. I will say, at least with Sierra Leone, they're offering two versions of it. It's very controversial, but they have the $100,000 versions for people of African descent, and then they have the $140,000 version for those who are not of African descent. And you have to be able to prove it by taking a DNA test. Not to get mixed up with their citizenship by accession, which is a different program that's been on pause since last year, which was more like $4,000 or $5,000 around that amount to get citizenship in Sierra Leone. But yes, there are citizenship by investment programs in many different countries. The Caribbean has a few countries, and of course, across the continent of Africa, there are a few as well. All right. So, okay. So I know we are over time. We were at time. We were planning to discuss another topic, but I think this one was a needed and timely one. Luckily, we had some videos to be able to react to, so you guys got a chance to see a bit of what the ceremony was like. Again, check back in for the YouTube descriptions. You guys can all head over to YouTube, go to Ivy's channel, my channel, and you can catch the live stream in our descriptions. I'm going to send it over.
I do want to talk briefly about the events that I went to here in Canada.
Okay, yes, absolutely. I didn't know if we had time. So, you're here. It's 6 p.m. where you are. Yes, please. So Ivy, can you speak to the conference that you went to and what you found about it that was so insightful and impactful?
Yeah, so I went to a conference in Toronto called The Age of Africa, and it was a symposium conference held at the Monk School of Global Affairs and Public Policy at the University of Toronto. And the event brought together policymakers, academics, people who are interested in investing in Africa, and thought leaders to talk about Africa's expanding role in shaping the economy and political landscape around the world. It featured a lot of panel discussions, fireside chats to talk about Africa's influence in the 21st century. Now, what I found interesting was that, you know, because being in Canada, they did talk a lot about the Canada-Africa policy that was launched about a year ago, and all about deepening relationship between Canada and Africa when it comes to business relations. There were discussions about strengthening the relationship in business. And I met people who had come in from, I met some people from Sudan, from Uganda. The Uganda High Commissioner to Canada was there. I met people from Kenya, from Ghana, from Nigeria, who were all there talking about business. And then they had a strong conversation about AI and how AI is shaping a lot in the world, and how Africa needs to make sure that it doesn't fall behind in the whole AI revolution, because it is a way that Africans can actually, you know, build business with the young population. They talked a lot about the young population of Africa and how they have to leverage the young people so that they can understand the value of AI. And then they also talked about the way that companies are taking advantage of young people with some of the data centers that have people training, like in Kenya, when you hear some of the people who are being burnt out with some of the AI training and stuff like that. So it was a really insightful event. And it really was an opportunity for me to also network and meet like-minded people. I met some people who are doing some business in Ghana that I have an opportunity to speak with at a later date. But it was really good. I think that if anybody does come to Canada next year, that they might want to look into this conference. It's called The Age of Africa.
Nice. And my bad, I thought it was displaying on the screen and something else was displaying that whole time. I meant to pull that up, but at least we got a chance to take a look at the site and see what it is. It's just ageofafrica.com if you guys want to check out the page that has all the details from what Ivy just described. So yeah, I mean, and that goes to the idea of going to different conferences, right, that are Africa focused. That's something that is definitely on my list of things to do. And for those of you who are watching, it's great to watch, but it's also really good to engage. There are so many different conversations, and it'll help you out as you're thinking about whatever your connection to the continent is going to be. Hearing from other people who've made those decisions, who are where you want to be, is super important, whether they're speaking from the stage or you meet them in person, walking around the hall in the networking events. I can't tell you how important it has been for me to go to these different kinds of events, to meet different people that have led to different partnerships, relationships, all kinds of other things that have come from going to these events. So definitely recommend, if you're in proximity of any of these kinds of events in the UK, if you're in the diaspora, the UK, the US, and even if you're on the continent, there are many events like this. You may not feel like getting up and going out that day. It might be after a day at work, whatever, but generally you won't regret it if you go with an open mind to hear what people have to say, and also learn from those who are doing what it is that you're looking to do.
Yeah, and it's very important, especially if you say you want to live in the African continent, to get an understanding of what's happening with politics, with business, with what opportunities are happening, and then also who you can connect with and network with to do any type of business that you're looking to do.
Exactly. Any final thoughts on the conference or this conversation overall?
Oh, I think the conference was very, very well done. I only had a problem at the end with food, but other than that, it was a good conference. I think that, today is just another example of the fact that there are people who are still very much interested in coming to Ghana and to other African countries. Despite some of the challenges that we saw earlier this year with the way the citizenship process had some changes, some drastic changes that happened this year. There were still people who were interested in moving forward, despite some of the new fees that were added. People still really wanted to participate and be a part of it. So it didn't stop. It didn't stop some people.
Absolutely. Yes, there's a clear sense of belonging and a connection. And I think Ghana has been great for being that bridge and leading the way. I'm excited to see how, over the next 10 to 15 years, how things continue to transpire and these kinds of programs continue to grow in the next administration and whoever else ends up in power. And then also looking forward to I myself getting citizenship in Ghana eventually. The time is coming. We just be on the lookout, guys, for my announcement when it eventually happens. And so with that, of course, make sure to follow Ivy across all platforms. It's Ivy Prosper across everything. So pick a social media platform. You will see her there. You can also follow me and what I'm doing at Authentic African. It's going to be different iterations and versions of it, but on Instagram it's Authentic_African. On YouTube it's just Authentic African. On TikTok there's 2 underscores between Authentic and African. And then on Facebook it's The Authentic African. I know the name we're taking, so you just gotta, but you'll find it. You type in Authentic African, the logo, you will recognize it. Come find me. And for more content like this, we will be going live every other week on Monday at this time to discuss all things happening in Ghana. So stay tuned to both channels for these conversations and so much more. Ivy does a lot more other types of content, as do I. But this is the one thing that we collaborate on regularly. So please come join us every 2 weeks and share this with anybody you know who's thinking about moving to Ghana, who has any considerations on traveling, or even potentially even doing business or investing in Ghana. This is going to be the live stream that'll be really useful for them. If you haven't already, hit that thumbs up so that the algorithm knows that you guys found this useful and helpful. And then, of course, subscribe to Ivy on YouTube, subscribe to Authentic African on YouTube, so that you guys can be notified. Oh, and hit that notification bell and hit all so you're notified every time a new video comes out.
Yes.
And so with that, one other way you can also support the channel. Ivy, can you remind them of because it is Ivy's birthday, so let's give Ivy a present for her birthday. Head on over to, where do you want people to go? Zelle? Is that the best place, since that's what you shared earlier?
They can do Zelle. They can do Zelle. So let me type it in the thing again. I made a mistake earlier. I had a typo, so I'm typing it right now.
Okay.
For Zelle, it's info@ivyprosper.com. And then for birthday gifts, you can also do PayPal. I'll put the PayPal link there.
Okay.
So you can send your support for the birthday. There you go. It's in the chat. I put it on did you see it there?
I do see it. Yes, both PayPal and it only went to YouTube. So I need
because I'm streaming on YouTube only. I know you're streaming in different places.
Yeah,
so,
can you shoot me the link on like in our chat, and I'll just copy and paste it so that all of my folks can also support.
Let me see.
Guys, I will say this really quickly as we are winding down. My very first live stream was with Ivy Prosper. She taught me how to use StreamYard. I was confused by this platform. There was a lot going on. You guys don't know how difficult it is behind the scenes. And Ivy took time out of her day to join me on my very first live stream, fumbling around with the platform and not figuring it out, not knowing what to do. We talked about United Airlines opening up that flight and Rosario Dawson on her take on who had the best jollof rice. But that was the first live stream I had ever done on YouTube, and Ivy was there for that very first one back in May of 2021.
What?
So Yeah,
That
that's
long already?
it has been that long. It's crazy. Yeah, because
Wow.
I started the YouTube channel in February 2021, and I had gotten some advice to go live, and so the first time I was eligible to go live and was ready to go live was in May of 2021. So yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
The
So
time
that long,
has gone so fast. We're in 2026 now.
I know it's crazy. It's crazy. So yes, thank you to Ivy, because I've gone live over 250 times, something ridiculous like that.
That's insane.
And so, you know, she helped me start this journey of
That's
these live
insane.
streams. So I just wanted to give you your flowers on this birthday of yours
Thank
for, you
you.
know, helping me get this thing started. Okay, cool. So I also added, you know what? I put it in the wrong place. I did what you did earlier. let me add it. So if you guys want to support Ivy for her birthday and you want to thank her for helping me as well, for those of you who follow me, and if you find these live streams useful, that in large part has to do with Ivy's help getting me up and started so I can feel confident and comfortable going live every week. So
You're
you can
doing
support.
great. I have to say, I have to commend you
Thank you.
how well you've done over these years of doing live streams consistently. You are the most consistent doing live streams, and people don't realize how difficult it is to do a live stream. People think it's easy. They just watch you and they're just like, you know, it comes easy. People watch, you know, even gamers and streamers that people like, and they watch them and they think it's easy work. But to be constantly talking and engaged with people and reading people's comments and filling dead air time, it's a real skill. It really is. And I commend you for being consistent for this many years.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And yeah, I echo all your sentiments on the difficulty. It is difficult. But yeah, I appreciate all of you. So somebody's saying inquiring minds want to know, Joe, what is the question that you have, Elder? What is it, Eldercraft? What's it? Eldercrafts 0021. Is it something I should be reading out loud? Let me see. Joe, we need ideas to manifest into the tangible. Is that what you want to know? Manifest into the tangible? Oh, you mean like what you can actually specifically do? Well, everybody's different, right? So as it pertains to I don't know what that's in regards to, actually. But if it's about the work that you could do on the continent, I think it's just start with places like this and doing the research. Once you become intentional about something, your mind starts to find the things that make sense for you, right? Just start moving in that direction. It will find you, or you will find it. I don't have an answer for you today because everybody's different. However, feel free to sign up for a consulting session with Ivy or myself, and we can help you figure out what makes sense for you on the continent. That was a tongue twister for me for whatever reason. All right, so with that, thanks for watching, guys. We really appreciate you all. We will see you guys all back in 2 weeks right here on This Week in Ghana.